Believe it or not, sautiller and saute, your pan, are related.
This is the feeling I have. It's like, this is a controlled, simple movement for détaché, and then I'll let go more.
It's perfectly valid. You'll hear Heifetz doing that type of stroke a lot, so it can sound very virtuosic.
Hi, my name is Christian Kim, and this video is all about the elusive sautillé bow stroke. Sautillé is one of the most frequently discussed bowing techniques, often misunderstood but essential to master for advanced repertoire. In this short compilation, we'll hear from two outstanding artists and pedagogues, Giora Schmidt and Dr. Robin Wilson. And finally, I'll share a few thoughts of my own on how to approach sautillé, especially for the first time. Feel free to leave a comment if there's another aspect of violin playing, whether technical or interpretive, you would like to see covered in a future compilation of artist insights. In this first clip, Giora explains what sautillé is and how to begin developing it effectively.
Sautillé is an off-the-string stroke that is initiated from the string. So versus when you're going, sautillé will be, and believe it or not, sautillé and saute, your pan, are related. It's the same root. So think of when you're sauteing your onions and you're shaking them on the pan, the onions are on the pan, you're shaking the pan, and then they lift off. That's the same way that we think of sautillé. So the bow starts on the string, and then you shake those onions in the pan, and you get nice crispy onions. Here you're getting a nice crispy stroke. But let's break it down. The best way to kind of explain it is to start from our good friend détaché, which of course you're now a master of because we've worked on that. So you start from a détaché and you just speed that baby up. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Think of a helicopter starting from the ground slowly with the blades turning faster and faster and faster and faster, and then it gets off the ground. So we're going to follow the same principle with our bow. We're going to start on the ground with our very simple friend détaché. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Giora immediately emphasizes two crucial points. First, sautillé evolves from a détaché stroke and begins from the string. Second, the motion comes primarily from the lower arm. These are foundational ideas that can clear up a lot of confusion about this stroke. Let's now hear how Dr. Robin Wilson approaches sautillé.
If we move on to sautillé, this is a bouncing stroke which is generated by the direction of the détaché movement, causing the stick to flex and thus create a bouncing effect. In reality, the hair doesn't need to leave the string unless the stroke is really exaggerated. So we have sautillé, and I'm using the forearm action of the détaché. The key here to generate that jump is to play the stroke in an optimum part of the bow, again above the balance point, in the most flexible part of the stick. What we do is we actually add a slight vertical movement to the détaché movement, which causes the rebounding flex. So here is my détaché. This is going in the direction of the tip and in the direction of the heel. So we're bowing across the string in this direction. As soon as I want the stick to jump, I'm going to add a vertical movement of the arm, a little like bouncing a ball. And that will cause that stick to start to rebound. And I add the vertical movement. I go back to the détaché with vertical movement. Now, as I'm adding the vertical movement, I'm also ensuring that my fingers and my thumb and my wrist are very, very supple, which allows slightly more range for that vertical action. And that gives us a sort of maximum efficiency. If I stiffen those, I have to use more arm movement. The stroke can also be done by using the wrist more in isolation. This generally requires that you play higher in the bow, and the evenness of the sautille, in my opinion, can be harder to control. It'll also generally be a lighter, bouncier type of sautille. It's perfectly valid. You'll hear Heifetz doing that type of stroke a lot, so it can sound very virtuosic. With the forearm movement, however, generating the stroke, it's possible to get more variety of volume and articulation in the stroke. So you can play with a really light sautille, or a heavier sautille where the stick digs into the string and each note is sort of dug out more. And this is great for projecting louder passages above a piano or orchestra. It's also easier to seamlessly change between détaché and sautille, and even go to spiccato if we're utilizing the stroke with the forearm motion. So I can go from détaché into sautille and back very easily. I can also go from spiccato with the whole arm, can transfer that to a forearm movement of sautille, and then go détaché. And this is very, very useful in fast passages where we might want to play the top of the phrase more on the string, for example, to give a sense of contour, and then bounce as we come down, perhaps cascading down a scale. In other mixed bowing with détaché and sautille, we need to play bounce strokes in between the on-the-string notes. Here, the fingers play a more active role in activating the bounce in a short space of time. So the flex of the fingers give the range of the vertical movement needed to generate the jumping effect. We find that in something like Barber Violin Concerto.
Dr. Robin Wilson adds some particularly insightful perspectives. He reaffirms the idea that sautille emerges from détaché, driven by active motion in the lower arm. This approach allows us to blend it musically and purposefully with other strokes such as détaché and spiccato, depending on the phrasing and character of the music. A wrist-isolated sautille can be valid, but in my experience, its use in repertoire is often limited in terms of dynamic range and adaptability to different tempi. In the following clip, you will see a slightly younger version of me sharing some personal thoughts on how I approach sautille in my own playing.
But what we mean by sautille is a bow stroke, usually on faster consecutive notes, that inspires the bow actually to jump by itself in a controlled fashion. So what I mean by that, for example, is something like Tchaikovsky's third movement. So this passage with the consecutive 16th notes going upwards on up and down bows, bouncing off the string, those are a typical sautille bow stroke. If you remember at the beginning of the course, talking about détaché, I mentioned détaché is really the foundation of all bow strokes that we have in a way. Certainly it is for sautille, with some fine print we'll talk about, but I'll show you what I mean. Let's go back again to Kreutzer number 2. But to keep it simple and to adjust the etude now to the task at hand, which is us finding a sautille bow stroke, let's just quadruple this. Let's just play every note 4 times. And you will see I'm still not jumping. We're still doing a détaché now, just a little bit faster. Still, I would suggest, this is my suggestion, as we talked about détaché, similarly, we'll try to just keep the movement simple. So our shoulder is relaxed, arm is relaxed, we're in the middle of the bow, so we can employ mostly our forearm, our lower arm. Simple enough. Okay, now how does that get us to a sautille? Okay, let's see how we get there. Okay, now I will do this one more time. and maybe pay some attention to what my hand may be doing. You may have caught what I've been doing, what the difference is. So as long as I play détaché, I consciously keep the movement quite simple between wrist, lower arm, and fingers that are all soft and flexible to a degree, but staying also calm and focused on the task, which is just a simple down and up stroke. Then while moving consciously, while starting consciously a sautille, I consciously relax, let go of the wrist and the fingers even further to let them move even further. However, still not actively. They are simply moving now more with what my arm dictates. So I'll demonstrate this without bow because I think it's easier to show. So when I do a détaché and reducing my movement to the bare minimum to keep it very simple and clean while doing a détaché, I'll move something like that. My fingers still move to a degree, my wrist still moves to a degree. And now let's switch it over to a sautille, and what I do is this. So just subjectively, I'm obviously not doing this, but you know what I mean. This is the feeling I have. It's like, this is a controlled, simple movement for détaché, and then I'll let go more.
I hope this compilation was informative, maybe even clarifying or thought-provoking. On Tonebase, we explore all these techniques in much greater depth with hands-on advice and step-by-step strategies to help you master your sautille or any other aspect of violin playing. Thanks for watching, and see you on Tonebase. Bye.